This is me. You're talking to Laurens de Groot. I am a Dutch actor, theatre creative, which means I not only act in plays and in film and theatre, but I also have the ability to create myself. I write, I direct, I sometimes teach theatre, and I can also work together with other organizations like libraries or museums and come up with theatre projects and help them to really write and create them as well, which is great to do. Really, really great to do. And Man met Koffer that you see below that is the name of my company. I think most of us understand Dutch, so we know what it means. For those who don't, Man met Koffer means man with suitcase. I told about this also, of course, last week. It means, how I see it is that you are your own instrument. This is how I look at acting. The pianist plays the piano. An actor has only himself as the instrument to create everything that he needs to create with. And as that goes back to business or service or whatever it is you do, know that you are your own instrument as well. Everything you need is inside you, your thoughts, your emotions, your life's experience, this body is what you have to deal with, and this mind and this, all your history. It's also all you will ever need, by the way. So if you don't have any idea what to do, just go inside. It's there somewhere. It's something I strongly believe in. Well, this is part 2 of 3 parts. So I hope you watched part 1 on YouTube. If you don't, you missed it. Too bad. I do an art form, theater, which has a great privilege of being unique, but it also has, well, the sad part that if you weren't there, you've missed it. It's gone. The minute I speak a sentence, it's gone. It's not like a painting that can last forever, or a song, or it's theater is like thin air. So to practice that principle, if you weren't there, you have missed it. You've missed last week, and I'm not gonna tell you all about last week. Just short summary of what we did last week. And I hope it works. Yeah, I told about you as your own instrument, but we also talked about how all human beings are natural born actors. We need the ability to pretend in order to survive. Just imagine having to be honest to everybody from this moment on in your life. You'll end up alone. We are natural born actors. Survival instinct. I showed you the picture of the art in the grottos of like 20,000 years ago. We talked about creative surviving. The way out of crisis is always a creative one. You can always come up with another solution to get out, and the normal solutions that you were normally using will not apply because you're in a crisis. So open your creative brain and you will always get out of the crisis. The 3 principles we talked about last week was the show must go on. Whatever happens, you always show up and you always make your deadline, whatever happens. And kill your darlings was the second one. Have the courage to get that one thing out that's in the way of something really magical happening. We talked about failure and how I think it doesn't exist. And I would like to inspire you to see life as an experiment. If you want to know everything in detail, go to YouTube and watch part 1 back. I would like to start with a short story. I talked about Katrien van Beurden last week, which I named as my best acting teacher ever, the best one I ever had. And she once brought me in contact with a book. It's called, oh, it's a mirror image. It's called An Actor Adrift. The story behind it is as following. It's 1968. And there's a Japanese actor called Yoshi Oide. And they are in the making of an international theater company in Paris, 1968. So actors from all over the world, from America, from France, from the Netherlands, and also this one Japanese actor, Yoshi Oide, does not speak a word of French, does not speak a word of English. He has never left the island. He's never been out of Japan. In Japan, he's like this famous, really well-respected actor. Everybody knows him back then. He's very well respected, and he goes to Europe to join this international company. No French, no English. So they communicate in the beginning with, I don't know how, read the book, but with hand gestures, and they try to get onto the same level. But the director, Peter Brooks, he wants him there to share his knowledge of the ancient Japanese theater culture, no and kabuki. And for anybody who's ever been there, go there, or wants to go there when we are allowed to travel again. Go and watch a kabuki, or go and watch no. It's ancient theater culture, really beautiful, but really different than the European style of acting and making theater. He wants him to show and teach the other actors that. Really hard process. But there's one quote in this book that has completely changed my acting career, the way I practice acting. And I wanted to share that quote with you. It's from this actor, Yoshi Oida. And he said the following, just absolute. We talked about ego. That's the last thing on the list of last week. This is what he said about it. When I act, what matters is not whether my gesture of pointing at the moon is beautiful. For me, there is only one question. Did the audience see the moon? This is ego out of the way. This is not the actor, look at how pretty I am. No, this is the magic that you have to create, in my view, as an actor. It's not whether they see you or how good your acting is. No, it's, and in this case, they talk about a scene in which he points to the moon, looks at the moon, and he's not interested in how the audience sees him. No, he wants, the only thing he works for is, did the audience see the moon? And this changed how I looked at acting. It's based on this principle, this acting principle. If you can see it, they can see it. First principle of today. Number 4. If you can see it, they can see it. This is the magic that is theater. This is what you can create in the mind's eye of your audience. If I look at the sky and I literally see a moon, I can see it in all its detail and all its colors, and I look at it as if I'm looking at, I'm literally seeing the moon with my mind's eye. The audience will see it as well. And they can even tell afterwards what it looked like, because I've opened that window. But it starts with me. I have to work hard to create this in all its detail, whatever it is. If I talk about a house, for example, I'm not an actor, I sell houses. If I want to paint that picture in the mind of my client, I have to see it first. I have to walk through the door. I have to know what kind of door it is, and all the details you can create. Put yourself there first. You need to open your visual brain, the art of visualization. If you can see it, they can see it, and they will see it because you see it. And the first time you succeed and it happens to you, this is really magical. I don't know precisely how it works. I just know that it works. But know that it starts with you. Don't be lazy. Actors who are lazy, they don't get to this level because it's really hard work. You have to add all the details, not only visual, but also what do I smell when I enter the door of that house? To take that metaphor again. What do I smell? What are the textures on the walls? What floor am I walking on? I have to paint this full picture in my head with all the senses, smell, maybe I taste something in that house. A bit odd, I'm not licking the walls or something, but you know what I mean? Bring it to life first in your brain, and then you talk about it. They will see it as well. A lot of people I talk to in business say, yeah, the client didn't get my idea, or I had this really, really great idea and they didn't go with it. And I think most of the time it's because you have not really crystallized the idea. You don't see it. So what do you expect your client to do? And when I'm on stage, all I do is try to put myself in the shoes of my character, in the situation my character is in. And I just look around. I try to be there in that artificial reality that we create. And with that, by doing that in all its detail, the artificial reality becomes actually visible. And this is what you can do in any business you do, but it's hard work. And it's a lot of time and a lot of effort. So don't be lazy. But you can create magic. And people will, what you will see is if you do this, it will also open the visual brain of your client, the child's brain of your client. Kids love everything before they are spoiled by education and school and etc. They love everything. And your client will start to come up with ideas himself because now he can see it. And you can make great steps that you would not have been able to make if you were just stuck to your idea that you don't get yourself yet. Great tool. If you can see it, they can see it. But like I said, it starts with you. That brings us to the next acting principle. And I'm going to try to bring it, maybe I have to do this to do that. I'm going to have to do it like, I worked with this director who I really respected, great, and I was really honored to do a masterclass with him. But I did a scene and it didn't really work, and then he looked at me, looked me straight in the eye, and he said to me, "I know what the problem is." And he looked at me like this and he said, "Learn your lines." And I was like, but I have learned. Said, "No, you haven't studied your line. Learn your lines." And it was true. I wasn't fully prepared. So the fifth principle, acting principle, is exactly this: learn your lines. This hard study. It's boring. It's every actor hates this. It's the most dull part of the job that we do. But this is the bottom line of everything. There's a great clip on YouTube, a clip from an interview with Peter O'Toole. I presume everybody knows who that is, an actor from the old school, I always say. And he is asked about the interview. The interviewer, great BBC anchorman, he asks him, what did you do, Mr. O'Toole, to prepare for this role besides learning your lines? And then he says, whoa, stop. That's it. That's all I did. And he goes on this whole rant about how the importance of learning your lines. That's it. And you have to learn them so well, you can forget about them. This is what I always tell the actors I direct. The difference between an actor and a pretender is preparation. If you're not fully prepared, all you can do is pretend or bluff or pretend your way through it. And this makes you vulnerable as well, because you are not connected to whatever your skill or whatever your product is. If you don't know it back and forth and left and right, if you have not practiced all the options and all the possibilities and have come up with a counter idea for them, and this is how you study lines. What am I saying? But not what the words literally mean, but what do they mean spoken by this person to that other person at this time and this place? What is the meaning of the words? You have to interpret that. And then the other actor is going to talk to you back, and he has a totally different interpretation, and it changes again. This is why you rehearse. But you have to know the lines so well that they, well, like I said, you can forget about them. And they become alive, and they get from the paper. You're no longer pretending to be sad, but you will get the sadness as a free gift, because you are connected to in this case the lines that you've studied. Learn your lines. Prepare. There's no such thing as too prepared. It doesn't exist. And of course, sometimes there's no time. Time can be an excuse, but if it is not, there simply is no time. Try to prepare as much as you can and try to get the most important things out of it, but always be prepared. Otherwise, you cannot act. Acting is a verb. It's to act. It's the ability to do something. And if you are not fully prepared, you're not able to really do something with it or about it. No, you have to pretend. You have to fake. You have to ask yourself the question: am I an actor or a pretender? This is what I mean. I'm not good at math, but I know this equation. It's what I just told you. Learn it so well you can forget about it equals control plus freedom. This is the only thing in the world that will give you both control and freedom. sounds like two things that cannot go together. But yeah, I believe last week I quoted Jules Deelder, a Dutch poet, who said, zelfs binnen de mogelijkheden zijn de mogelijkheden onbeperkt. Within limitations, the possibilities are limitless. This is sort of what I mean, but if you learn them so well, you can forget about them. You do, 1 minute before I have to go on, I don't know what my first line is. If you would ask me, I wouldn't know. I just don't know. The only thing I know is the moment before, because I have to know where do I come from before I enter the scene, but that's all I know at that moment. And I just trust in the fact that the lines will come when I need them. But you can only get to this level of, well, of control. You're only able to let go. This is the freedom part. If you know them so well. If I can wake you up in the middle of the night and ask about your product that you know, because you know every aspect of it, every detail, you've studied it all and studied it again and again and again and again and again and again, rehearsed and repeated it so often that you can put it in a song, for example. You can do anything with it. You can say it backwards even. Know your stuff so well that you are free. There's not a moment in a day where people can ask you about your business and you don't know the answer, because you've studied it in and out and over and over and over and over again. You know every aspect. You're free. Nobody will ever be able to put you in a corner of not knowing something. And that's also your control. Nobody will ever be able to harm you or to know, because there's no such thing as too prepared. You've learned your lines. You know it all back and forth. There's an anecdote. It's this Robert Downey Jr. He had a really fall back in his career because he was on drugs and on alcohol. And then there was this one opportunity. They asked him for a really big part. And he felt like, okay, this is the momentum. This is the moment. I have to do this right. So he came up with all these weird techniques to learn his lines. He put all the blanks out of the script. So all his lines read as one word. And then he put all the letters. He literally did this, put them backwards. So you could read the whole script with all the blanks out as one word backwards. That's how intensively he studied. He succeeded and his career flourished again. Learn your lines. It will give you control and it will give you freedom. Prepare yourself. Okay. But don't be too hard on yourself. It sounds like a contradiction, but what I mean with it, and the picture is actually of an oak tree in the Netherlands, and it's growing in the dunes. Really beautiful national park we have there. And as you can see, this is a tree, it's about 20 years old, but it's only like 4 or 5 meters high. This is because this tree has adapted, otherwise it would not have survived. The ground, the soil it's growing in is really poor, so there's hardly any nutrition in it. It's on a constant wind and constant salt that is also in the soil, but also in the air. So it's a really hard living there. As you can see, it grows low, it has a really thick stem, but it's not the oak tree as we all know it. But nobody can be the same, and nobody can be that big oak tree that we know. But this tree is strong because it has adapted. If you know your stuff so well, you can forget about it. You will also be open to the circumstances. And you will find the courage to let the circumstances change you in that specific moment. That's why if you would go and see a play with me in it, and you would see them all, like the whole tour, all 15, 20, 30 of them, all 30 will be different because I am different that specific day compared to the other day. I'm not a machine. If you know your stuff so well, you can let go of that idea that you always have to deliver the same thing. It's impossible. Spelen met de vorm van de dag, to use a Dutch sentence that Huub Stapel, I worked with him, he called it that. Work with, how you are that day. That is how your performance looks like and feels like that day, because you are you. And you also open up to the circumstances. If your client wants to go in another direction, that's fine. Just go with him for a minute. because you are prepared. You also prepared that direction because you are prepared. You know your stuff back and forth and left and right. So you can adapt. This is part of your freedom, that you can also adapt and you're not fixed on this one idea. I have to grow like this and then have a no, you can also look like this. You can also look like this oak tree because that were your circumstances. And it's a great fine oak tree and he's strong. So adaptation is a power. Okay, notice. Last principle of today. A bit of what I'm talking about already is practice your inside-outside connection. What does that mean? Well, more and more studies are about this, and especially people on IMN are really interested in it, or even have businesses in it, how the body and the mind and the body and the emotions are connected and how they communicate with each other. And I think the first one really scientifically published about this is Sigmund Freud, who found out that people who were not medically ill were still sick. And he investigated how that was possible. And this is really long story short, but he found out that they thought that they were sick, and with that became sick. So he was the first to document, at least, the connection between what we think that we are and how your body will respond. Normal reaction, something happens, you think something of it, or an emotion occurs, and your body will adapt to that emotion. That is how it normally goes. I walk in the forest, I see a tiger, I'm scared shitless, and my brain makes sure that my body runs away. That's the normal reaction. But now that we know that there is a connection, we can also investigate, what do the emotions look like? There's a fantastic study. There was a photographer, I believe a French photographer, tried to find his study for today. I wasn't successful. But what he did was he traveled around the world to photograph people in a certain emotion. People from all layers, from all cultures, all religions, all rich and poor, all layers of society throughout the world, India, the Amazon, Europe, America, everywhere. Because he was curious, what do emotions look like in Asia? What do emotions look like in Africa? What do emotions look like in the middle of the Amazon for people who have never seen other cultures? But the outcome of his study was really unexpected. What he found out was that everywhere in the world, throughout culture, through religion, emotions looked the same. And he was even astounded by that outcome. He did not expect it. But he photographed all these emotions and they looked the same wherever you were. So this is a thing that we actors now use, another magic trick that I present to you today. If you know what a certain emotion is apparently imprinted into our brain, this is what sadness is supposed to look like. This is what anger is supposed to look like. You can turn it the other way around. So you do not create a circumstance that makes you angry. No, if you need anger on stage, you just put your body in the position that your brain has linked to anger, and anger will occur. Simple example, if you would all turn your hands into two fists and you really squeeze them, you put your eyebrows down, and you do that for about a second or two, or 10 probably, your brain will start to produce anger. Because it's probably thinking that I have a very visual brain. But, oh my God, we're angry. But we need anger because the body is in the shape of anger. So apparently we're angry, so we need anger. And it starts to create the emotion. And you can do this with anyone, with any emotion, I mean. And they even found out how emotions are linked to certain organs in your body. If I activate my stomach, for example, and I pull it a little backwards, or I at least imagine that I pull it backwards, I will feel disgust, because disgust is linked to your stomach. Aggression is linked to your liver. Sadness is linked to your intestines. And amazing studies, look it up on the internet, because you can manipulate. This is a power that you can have in your possession. If you need certain energy in your body, if you need a certain emotion, If you need to feel powerful, for example, you have to go to a meeting and you feel insecure about it because, well, you have prepared, of course, because Laurens told you, but you're still a bit insecure. What I sometimes do is I use the Pavarotti, which is just put your arms sideways. And if you do that for 10 seconds, you will start to feel powerful. Because this is how your brains think powerful looks like. And they will create it for you. And I think it's called the Pavarotti because rumor has it Luciano Pavarotti did this before he, seconds before he had to get on stage and feel, but this is how it works. You can manipulate your own emotions. If things don't work out, just think what you want to happen, and your brains will create it for you. If you feel a certain way, just put your body in another position. Study this. It's really, really interesting. You can master your emotions and master your thoughts. The inside-outside connection. Know it exists, so you can use it. Study it, so you can use it. Okay. Last thing of today. This is a behind-the-scenes anecdote that I wanted to share to paint a bit the picture of the approaches we've been talking about. On the picture, you see, I think most of us know the guy on the left, which is a very young Dustin Hoffman. The other guy is Laurence Olivier. He's this actor who comes from the British acting school, which is really classical and really, it's been ages old. And they teach actors to do it as a profession, do it as a skill, and they teach them all these techniques. So they teach actors, for example, how anger looks like, and you just put your body, the thing I just told you about. They use techniques, breathing techniques, and they really have a technical approach to acting. This is the school that Laurence Olivier came from. The guy on the left, Dustin Hoffman, he's one of the first who was really practicing what we now call method acting. Last week I told about Stanislavski, the Russian acting teacher. He's the inventor of this, which goes back to the idea that you use your own life's experience from the inside out to really feel the emotions attached to it. And so the emotions are real. They were always looking for reality. And if you don't have the life's experience that you need for the play or need for the film, you create them. These are the type of actors, Daniel Day-Lewis is another example, who if they play a tramp, they go and live as a tramp for 3 weeks on a city in a big city or something. Or they go into the woods if they play an adventurer in film who lives in the woods, because they don't have this experience themselves, and they can only work with their own, well, what's inside Man with Suitcase, their own life's experience and how their body is responding to that. Well, what happened behind the scenes? Laurence Olivier, Dustin Hoffman both had to enter the scene exhausted because they had just been running, and I believe they had been chasing each other, and then they entered the house. And Dustin Hoffman was like really pumping himself up, he was like exhausting himself, like that he would be literally exhausted when he would enter the scene. So he was doing push-ups and he was running around, and Laurence Olivier was looking at him like, and when he was finally finished, and we're like the camera guy was ready and the director was ready, and they were finally, like a few seconds before they would enter the scene, Laurence Olivier looked at Dustin Hoffman and he said, "You can act that, And he did his breathing exercise, put his breath up, and he entered the scene exhausted, or at least what the audience would accept as being exhausted. And they were both right. They both won Oscars, and they're both really great, fantastic actors. Two ways to the same beautiful conclusion. One from the inside out and the other from the outside in. And while Dustin Hoffman told us in an interview, I don't know if it really happened like this, but I'd just love to tell the story. That's it for today. End of part 2. To be continued next week with the last 3. Thank you very much. I don't hear you, but I can see you applauding with the next 3 acting principles. Right.
Bravo.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Bravo. Gracias. Gracias. Muchas gracias.
You're welcome.
Absolutely amazing. When I go to a play, I never realize
what's all up behind. You let us show a little bit of what your work, in what you think of it before you start. I never realized that there's so much work behind, that you know so many things about how to prepare before you go on stage.
Yeah.
But
it's actually something that is
at my head to chapeau for all the work that is all behind that, because you never realize it. As I'm a consumer, I'm going to a play and I enjoy, and you show to us what's all behind that, and of course we learn also, because these are all real life lessons. Yes, amazing.
well, theater to me is recreating life. So I first have to understand life before I'm able to recreate it. So yeah, that's an intensive study if you take it seriously, which I always think that you must do with whatever you do. But yeah, thank you. But it's actually something that in politics or in funding, it works against theater. When the minister who has to decide about it goes to the play, he thinks, oh, this looks easy. Just the same thing you just said, Claudia. Oh, this looks easy. But it's hard to explain the amount of work that is behind it. And in any business, by the way, if it feels easy, there's like 3, 4, maybe or 30 years of working like that before it finally. So I don't know if acting is unique in that. I think everybody who's eventually successful in what he does, it's a labor of work. It always is. Yeah. Yeah. Can't help it. I can't make it any prettier than that. It's just practice, 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 practice. It's rehearsing, constant repeating, and it's yeah. Well, most of you don't get the applause. That's a pity. Yeah.
Can I just say that I really, really enjoyed that, Laurens? Thank you very much for your massive effort. Yeah, I got nothing to add to that. Some of you know that I teach a course called Stage Presence, and this is a step up from that. So really, thank you, Laurens, and we need to talk.
we do. We will. Yeah.
I really love to join a workshop where you both give us lessons in stage presence.
Okay. Okay. We pick a date. We do that.
Yeah. I saw Danielle has something shared in the chat. Danielle, can you explain?
Sure. I was triggered by Laurens, his power pose that he said, the Pavarotti pose. There's a really great TED Talk on how body language shapes who you are by Amy Cuddy. And I mean, it's kind of an old TED Talk, but I always think it's very inspiring.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know it, Laurens?
No. Well, I know the tech. I know what it talks about.
The TED Talks, but not this one.
I'm gonna. So thank you for sharing. Yeah, because it does work like that. And
yeah,
also when I teach acting to children or to younger, well, to anybody for that matter, how do you create a character? I always, most of the time, I start with the physicality of the character, because a guy who walks like this his whole life will walk like this for like 2 minutes, and you know what he feels like, you know what he thinks, you know, and everything. You get everything for free.
Yeah,
because
that's exactly what she said.
Everything is heavy, you know. Everything in life is a burden if you walk like this.
Yeah. What Amy Cuddy said is that in the TED Talk, she says that people before going into an interview, if they're just sitting there before going into the interview, they're like making themselves small and they're waiting, etc. And what she said is if you just go to the restroom and you have to like make a power pose in the restroom, like stand like Superwoman or Wonder Woman, and then just stand there for like 2 or 3 minutes, and then you come out and you feel much more self-confident and you nail the interview. It's really a fun psychological thing.
Yeah, no, I can only agree. Yeah, it absolutely is. Yeah. It's a bit like it's a bit the magician telling you his tricks now. It feels like that, but well, I can give you them for free. But yeah, it works like that. Yeah. Hans.
Yes, question, dear brother. I like to keep call people brothers and sisters if we're closely knit. Give me your beautiful story, Laurens. The question that arises in me is, would you, personal question for you, would you have come to the point that you're now, that you can transpire this story to us? Would you have been able to become who you are now without your teachers? Could you have done it on your own power?
No. Well, I don't know. It's hard to look back and paint a picture of what maybe I would have, but it would have taken me a lifetime, and it would have taken me much, much longer. No, absolutely. And I always try to give them credit as much as possible. Because yeah, of course. But sometimes the teachers, or sometimes the one quote that struck me is by my mother, or by somebody else who's even outside of acting. It doesn't have to be an acting teacher per se, but learning the craft and learning the skills and really understanding what it is that I'm doing, what I should never do again, which was the case in the beginning of my career. Please stop doing that. That's not acting. Yeah, I don't think I could have learned that without great teachers. Yeah. So look these people up, find your own teachers, and do masterclasses and workshops, and not only listen to these people, but try to execute them. What I always do is, okay, this person is saying this and this, but how do I put this through this machine, through this instrument? How can I make it mine so I can do something with it? And that's the thing that has always been in me. So that's why I'm saying maybe I could have gotten there without them, but it would have just taken me longer. And I might have drifted off, to wrong places more often than I do now. But yeah, they're essential. Yeah, you need to have great teachers. Yeah.